Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you everybody for joining us today for our iMeet Central University 101 course on file management. Today we are talking about file management, and the expected outcomes of today's call is just to learn the basics of how you upload and work with files in iMeet Central, how you can gain some insight into advanced features that improve communications and workflow, and just to kind of get a better sense of how you can manage data using iMeet Central. Now, specifically what we're going to discuss is we're going to talk about uploading files and working with files. So we're going to learn how you can upload content and save versions. We're also going to talk about how you can preview files and make comments, how you can use file statuses and Cloud Assist, which is pretty cool. And finally, we'll make sure that we talk about some added features like tagging and version history and so on. So, before we dive in, I just want to put this out there. Files and discussions in iMeet Central is not just a place for putting stuff. And I apologize for the kind of salesy pitch here, but where iMeet Central stands apart in the market is that we have designed our interface so that you can collaborate around documents, not just store them. There's Dropbox, there's Google Drive, there's Microsoft Cloud, and so on, which if you just need to drag and drop something and stick online, you can do that. But with iMeet Central, the purpose of unlocking the Files and Discussions feature is for you to make content visible to your team and collaborate with your team members on that specific file. So that's really what we're going to be talking about today. And without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into the platform. So I'm going to do a quick screen rearrange, and just confirming that everybody can see I am currently logged into iMeet Central. I'm in a company called Vacao, and this is a fictitious company. I'm going to open up PowerPoint on my other monitor here, so I've got my bullet points in front of me. And this company is where we're going to spend our time today playing around in the Files and Discussions feature. So I'm logged in as a fake user named Andrea Caravis, and I'm going to click on my Workspaces button here, and I'm going to navigate into a workspace that is called the Macy's 2018 website redesign. This is a workspace that was created as we're working on redesigning Macy's website, and so all of our conversations and files and tasks and so on would be contained in this workspace. So I'm going to click into this workspace, and I land on the Home tab, and I'm going to navigate to the Files and Discussions tab. The Files and Discussions tab is where you should be going to upload and work on files. All right. Oh, go away all this stuff. All right. The Files and Discussions tab should look familiar to you. It looks very similar to a folder structure on your computer. Along the left-hand side of the Files and Discussions area, you'll see a list of folders, and folders can be nested underneath one another. So you'll notice that this one expands, and I can see subfolders. By default, when you navigate to the Files and Discussions tab, you land on the All Items list, which shows you a list of every single file in this workspace. To start navigating into individual folders, you simply click on the folder, and it will show you its contents over here on the right. Below the All Items button is an Attachments area. The Attachments System folder is where you will find files which are attached to tasks or database records. So if you're ever working in project management and you have that opportunity to attach a file and you drag and drop a file from your computer, that file will live in the Attachments folder here in Files and Discussions. The parent folder for the workspace is the same name as the workspace, in this case Macy's 2018 website redesign, and underneath this parent folder are all of your custom folders. To create a folder in iMeet Central, you click on the New button here at the top, and you select Folder from the drop-down list. So if I wanted to create a folder for, say, wireframes, I would click on New, click on Folder, and I would click on Wireframes. Now at the time I create this folder, I can nest this folder underneath another one. For example, I may want to put the wireframes folder underneath the creative assets folder. Or I can select the parent, and this wireframes folder would appear at the top of the list. I'll go ahead and I'll nest it under creative assets. And if I'm using external users, I can mark this folder internal use only, which means that external users in this workspace wouldn't see it. I don't have any external users in this workspace, so I'm going to go ahead and uncheck that box and click on Create. I'll find the wireframes folder has been created underneath the Creative Assets folder. Now after I create a folder, if I do a quick refresh, I can reposition it anywhere here in the folder tree. By left-clicking and dragging, I can put it in a different folder. So you can build folder trees and then rearrange them as needed. If you ever run into an issue with dragging and dropping a folder, by the way, just give your browser a quick refresh, and that should clear up any issues that you're noticing. So refresh is your friend. Now when you're looking in a folder, you'll notice up at the very top of the file preview area the breadcrumb links to show you where you are. So I'm in the wireframes folder, which is under Contract, which is underneath the parent folder, Macy's 2018 Website Redesign. And over here to the right is a drop-down menu, and if I click on this, I can edit this folder, which would allow me to rename the folder or change its internal use only status. I can also, from this drop-down picker, get a list of email addresses. So if I click on Email to this folder, this shows me a list of email addresses that if I send an email to one of these addresses, it will create content in iMeet Central. You cannot distribute these email addresses to people who are not users in this workspace. So it is not a way for people who don't have a license to create stuff in iMeet Central, but it is a nice shortcut for you to, say, create an online document or upload attached files or start a discussion. So a common example here is, let's say you're working with a client and they email you a list of 3 files. And you're in Microsoft Outlook and you're seeing those 3 attachments and you said, I'd love to upload these into my iMeet Central folder. You can either download those attachments to your computer, go into iMeet Central, drag and drop and upload them, or simply forward that email with the attachments to this address. And you'll find that those attachments are posted into this folder in iMeet Central. Also from this drop-down menu, you'll see that you have the ability to share a folder into another workspace. This is especially useful if you have a folder with some assets in it that you need to make visible across multiple workspaces, but you need to control the versions in one place. So for example, if I were to go to my Contract folder and click this drop-down menu right here and click on Share, I can select another workspace in iMeet Central. So for example, let's go and share this into Soda Pop campaign, which is going to be right down here. And I want to nest this shared contract folder underneath the parent folder. I can indicate whether or not I want users to make changes to files inside the folder from the shared workspace, as well as see comments from the originating workspace. So I'll click on Share Folder, and when I share a folder, at the top of the file list area, you'll notice that there is a new little message here. It says this folder is shared. I can reopen the sharing settings and update the workspaces that this is currently shared into. And if I were to, say, duplicate this tab real quick and go into our Soda Pop campaign workspace, and I go to the Files and Discussions area in this workspace, you will find that contract folder is shared in to this workspace, and all of its contents came with it. So shared folders are really great if you've got 10 workspaces, for example, and people working in those workspaces, you don't want them to have visibility into each other's workspaces, but you need them all to have visibility into a common set of files. I would share that folder from one workspace into all 10, and that way team members in those 10 workspaces can see that folder's contents, but not be able to see into each other's workspace. So that's the shared folder feature, and again, you find that by clicking this drop-down menu beside a folder, and you click on Share. Now, once you've shared a folder, if you need to make any changes to its sharing settings, you just click on Sharing Settings here, and you can add additional workspaces that you want to share this folder into. So you can actually share a folder into multiple workspaces. You can manage those workspaces by just going into Sharing Settings, and you'll see them all here. To break a shared folder relationship, you simply click the trash can icon beside the workspace. When you remove all of the workspaces that a folder is shared into, the folder is no longer considered shared. Some other things that you can do from this drop-down menu is you can add this folder to your favorites. So if I were to say Add to Favorites and give this a refresh, when I click my name in the top right corner and I come down to where it says Favorites, I'll find a shortcut to this folder here underneath my name. This is especially useful for project managers or executives who are always going into the same folder to look at things. Why not add it to your favorites, and then it's just underneath your name whenever you need it. Of course, if you come back to this menu after you've added it to your favorites, it will now say Remove from Favorites. Finally, you have the ability to archive a folder and move a folder to the trash. When you archive a folder's contents, like I will now, I'm going to go ahead and archive this contract folder. I'm going to click on Archive. It will disappear from the folder tree along the left-hand side. This is great if you're ever pruning a folder tree and you need to clean up a workspace. Maybe you have a workspace that's open for like a year and you've got hundreds of folders and thousands of files, and one day you say, we really need to clean this up. Archiving folders is a great way to tidy up the files and discussions area. You can always get back to your archive by coming up to where it says Files by Folder here in the top left corner. Click this drop-down menu. Go to Files by Type, and you will find a link to the archive here. So again, if you come to the Files and Discussions tab, you'll see it says Files by Folder. Click this drop-down menu, come down to Files by Type, and you'll find your archive. So I'll go into the archive here, and I see there's my contract folder. And if I select this, I can simply move it back into my active folder tree by clicking on More, Move. And I'll just put it right back where it was underneath the parent folder here. I'll switch back to Files by Folder up here in the top left corner, give this a quick refresh, and I should find, I'll go through it this way, I'll click the Files and Discussions tab. There's my contract folder, has been restored. Archiving and unarchiving a folder will do nothing to that folder's contents. So you are safe to archive things. It won't delete versions, it won't delete comments. You can flip things into archive and out of archive all day long. It's not going to affect the data. So that's all things related to folder creation. Again, you create folders by clicking the New menu and going down to Folder. You rearrange them by dragging and dropping them. And you edit and modify those folders from this drop-down menu up here at the top. Now let's talk about files. Similar to a folder on your computer, or if you're already using a shared drive somewhere, we can upload files into iMeet Central simply by dragging and dropping them from our computer. So I'm going to go into this wireframes folder right here, and you'll notice that when there are no files already in the folder, you get this big blue thing that says drag and drop to upload. Why don't I go ahead and I'm going to change the name of this folder first. I'm going to go to Edit up here at the top. and I'm going to go ahead and call it Animal Pictures, and I'll click on Save. So I renamed the folder Animal Pictures because I just so happen to have on my desktop some pictures of animals. So to upload something, I simply select the file from my computer and I drag and drop it straight into iMeet Central. Drag and drop into the file list area and it uploads the file. Now you can do this in bulk. So if I select multiple files here and I drag and drop them, they all upload at once. The maximum file upload size, if you guys are taking notes, the maximum file upload size is 5 gigs. However, our Files and Discussions feature is supported by Amazon Web Services, AWS. And AWS says that you can upload files up to 10 gigs. So here's how it works. If you've got a file that is 5 gigs or smaller, we guarantee that you can upload it. We promise. If it's 4.6 gigs, drag and drop it, it will upload. If it is over 5 gigs, you can try it, and it might work. I've seen files as large as 7 gigs uploaded, like really big video files. But anything under 5, we guarantee. Anything over 5, it really depends on the server load. You can try it at a different time of day, and sometimes it'll work. But that's 5 gigs per file. So I technically could have just uploaded 20 gigs worth of content divided across 5 files. Once files are uploaded, they appear here in the file list area, and you can modify the way that files are previewed by clicking these little buttons up here in the top right corner. This is our condensed view, shows you the name of the file, who last modified it, and when it was last modified. But I also have a thumbnail list view, which once these particular images are rendered, they will appear as nice little thumbnails. And then I have a gallery view. Let me do a refresh here and see if I've got some updated thumbnails. Yep, there we go. Now, changing how you view your files will not affect other users, but it is consistent across all folders. So if I change it to gallery view in one folder and then I go down to my creative assets folder, it is also in gallery view. Similarly, if I switch it to condensed view and then I switch to another folder, it is in condensed view. But what's important is that you can play with these settings all day long. It will not affect anybody else in the workspace. It's just specific to you. When you are in the condensed view, you can also sort by whether or not you want to see things by name, alphanumeric, by type, or by status. We'll talk about status here in a minute. And of course, you can preview these files using our file previewer simply by clicking on the file name. After you upload a file into iMeet Central, nobody knows that you've uploaded it until you start a conversation around it. So this is a very important part of our process. And this is what I meant earlier about how we've designed our platform for you to collaborate and work together on files, not just to upload them and save them somewhere, but to actually work on them. When you open the file previewer, you have the ability to collaborate with your team members in a number of ways. First, across the top of the file previewer, you'll notice the folder breadcrumbs. And you've got some basic controls here, like you can zoom in and zoom out. You can also see some basic information, in this case about the image, I know the size. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see who last modified the file and its size. And if I hover over the description, I can click to edit a file description, which can be used to communicate to my team why I uploaded this. File descriptions aren't meant to describe what you're looking at. It wouldn't make sense for me to say, this is a picture of a gecko. It's like, duh. I know, there's the gecko picture. The description is there for you to communicate to your team why you uploaded this. Uploaded on Feb 21. We should send this to client for approval. BK, put my initials right there. Now when a person comes in and they look at this picture of the gecko, they're like, why is there a picture of the gecko in the Macy's 2018 website redesign workspace? Oh, I see. Brendan uploaded it, and we should send this to the client. Okay, great. You also have the ability to track file statuses. You see where it says no status up here in the corner? If I click on this, I can change a file's status. For example, I can say this is a file that is pending approval. Statuses are great for a number of reasons. Not only can you report against file statuses at a global level, so if you ever wanted to say, show me a list of all files that are pending approval, you can create a report and do that. But they can also be used to quickly indicate to team members what's going on with this particular file. And if I go back to my file list area, you'll see that the status appears here in a column. I can change a file status from here as well. In the file list view, if I click this drop-down menu on the right-hand side, I can change statuses here as well. File statuses are very effective at quickly communicating to a team of people in a workspace what's going on in the files and discussions area. You can also bulk change file statuses by changing these, clicking these little checkboxes, and then clicking the More button up at the top, and indicating that all of these are the status pending approval. One of the other really great things about file statuses, and why I always recommend during an implementation that we use them, is that we already know that I can organize files into different folders. That makes it easy for me to say, let me see a list of all my creative assets. But I can also filter a view by status. So what if I came in here and I said, I want to see all files that are pending approval, regardless of what folder they're in. If I come back up here to the top left corner and I click on the Files by Folder drop-down, do you remember when we went to Files by Type and that's how we got to the archive? If I go down a little further, I can go to Files by Status, and I can filter by a status. This pulls together a list of all files with the same status, regardless of the folder they're in. I can see the folder tree, so I can see we've got 1 pending approval file in Creative Assets and 3 in Animal Pictures, and I can navigate straight into the file from this list. So file statuses are a really great way to better organize files and communicate to team members quickly what's going on with a particular uploaded piece of content. So here I am back in the file preview area. I have my click to edit description. I've got my status. I also have the ability to add tags. Now, a file can only have one status, right? I've got a drop-down picker. I have no way of saying it is pending approval and final, or it is approved and draft. You have to pick one. What's nice about tags is you can apply multiple tags to a file and use those tags to better look for things. So check this out. If I come down here to where it says Add Tags and I click on this, it's going to show me a list of all tags that have been created in the system across every workspace, whether I have access or not. You'll see that Vacao, as a company, already has about 8 tags that include things like design, creative, prototype, photography, office, and so on. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and say this is photography, but it is also creative. And I'll click on Save. When you tag files and you are in the File List view, you can sort by tag by clicking this drop-down menu up here in the top left corner and coming down to Files by Tag. Using tags, you can filter files a number of different ways, and you can kind of slice and dice content you've uploaded into a workspace according to different categories. One piece of advice that I will give you all on the topic of tags is when a user opens a file and they go to edit the tags, they have the ability to create their own tags. If I just type in fish, it says create new, and then I can click on save. When a person creates a tag, it's visible across all workspaces, which means I thought it was appropriate to tag this picture fish. But there may be no other use for this tag anywhere else in the system. In fact, it may confuse people later on when they go to this drop-down menu and they're like, why is there a fish tag? So my advice to you all, if you're thinking about using tags, is to create a standardized list of company-approved tags. And let your team know what that list is. And let them know, please do not create your own tags. Please use the tags which are available in this drop-down picker so that you can standardize the method by which you are tagging things. Because left unchecked, you'll end up with weird tags like this one, volcano. Somewhere in iMeet Central is a picture of volcano. I don't know where it is, but there's a tag. So that might not have been an appropriate tag. To remove tags, you simply just click the little X beside the tag and click on Save. So that brings us down to the last little thing here, which is the comment box. As I said, when you upload a file into iMeet Central, nobody knows about it. In fact, you can be in iMeet Central uploading files and creating folders all day long and having a blast. And unless somebody is in the workspace looking at stuff, they're not going to know. The most important thing that you can do after uploading a file into iMeet Central is you can notify your team about it. And the way to do that is to make a comment. When you make a comment on a file, this is a great picture of some clownfish. That comment is visible to anybody else in the workspace who goes and looks at this file. Comments can be replied to, so you can have threaded comments. And you can also sort comment history from newest to oldest or oldest to newest. Why is this feature so helpful for some teams? Well, a lot of people come to iMeet Central and they say, when I need to send a file to someone, like let me say, Morgan, I'm going to pick on you again. I send a couple of files to Morgan. I attach them to an email, and I say to Morgan, don't lose these. They're really important. Morgan takes my email and she files it into a folder structure of her own design, and maybe she downloads those files and she sticks them on a folder on her computer. If 6 months later I go to Morgan and I say, hey Morgan, I need those files, she's got to do one of two things. You either have to go back into that email folder, which we all know is a nightmare, or I have to wait for her to go onto her hard drive and find something and send it back to me. Uploading files into iMeet Central and collaborating on them in the tool has two distinct advantages. One, files are always kept in the context of a project. If I know that there was a picture of a clownfish related to the Macy's 2018 website redesign, I go into the website redesign workspace and I find it in here. So that's one nice thing. But the other really nice thing about using iMeet Central as it relates to file management is when you make comments on a file, that comment history is saved, meaning I don't need to send emails with attachments anymore. Instead, I upload a file and I make a comment, and to notify other users, I simply @mention them. Please take a look at this photo. When you type in the @ symbol like that, it shows you a list of all the users in the workspace. I can type in a person's name, or if I click this drop-down menu right here, I can pick. And I can pick individuals like Eddie, or I can select user groups. In this case, let's see, do I have a user group in here? Oh, I don't. Here we go, yeah, creative, @creative, a creative user group. When you make a comment and you @mention people in your comment, they will receive an email notification with a thumbnail of the file, and they'll be able to navigate directly to it in iMeet Central. What you end up doing is you end up consolidating all of your conversations around these assets. Now, when you @mention a person on a file, they become subscribed to that file. You can manage subscribers by coming up here to the Share drop-down menu and clicking on Manage Subscribers. This shows you a list of all the people who are currently watching this file. If I upload a new version, or if I make a comment, they will receive an email notification. Project managers love to subscribe themselves to things so that they're notified if a change is ever made to it. Let me show you an example. I'm going to close out of this file previewer, and I'm going to go up to Contract, and let's take a look at this signed Sal PDF. And let's say that I wanted to be notified anytime this is updated. I can come up here to where it says Manage Subscribers and make sure that I am listed as a subscriber. In this case, I'm Andrea Caravis. If I weren't subscribed, and I came back in here, and as subscribers, there's a button that says Subscribe Myself. And then I click on Close. Subscribing yourself to a file will not notify anybody, but it's a really great way of keeping an eye on something. Now anytime a comment is made, you'll see down below it says Notify Subscribers, and anytime a new version is uploaded, I'm also notified. So again, to kind of wrap up this point, we'll start moving on to some more advanced features. After you upload a file, you have a lot of different tools that you can use to categorize and organize things. And the best way to notify your team to a file is to make a comment using the @mention feature to either specify specific individuals or user groups. If after this call there's anything you play with, I would highly recommend that you hop into a workspace, upload a file, and @mention a teammate of yours. Go over to their computer and see what kind of email notification they get. I promise you're going to appreciate the content in that email notification. It's really nutritious. Simona asked a question. Thanks, Simona. Can you alert everybody who has access to the workspace? You can. So if let's do this. Let's say that I'm here in the file list area, and I want to notify everybody in the workspace. Let's go into a different folder, and rather than drag and drop a file, let's say that I've identified that, hey, this picture of the elephants, I need everybody to know that I've just uploaded it. What I can do is rather than drag and drop, I'm going to go up here to the top where there's this drop-down menu, and I'm going to click on Single File. So it's beside the Upload button. It says Single File. The Single File Uploader allows you to upload a file. So I'm going to upload this picture of the elephants. And at the time that you upload it, give it detail. So I can give it a description. This photo was taken in Tanzania. I don't know if there are elephants in Tanzania, but there are now. And you'll see down here where it says Discuss. If I click that little magnifying glass, let me show you that one more time. If I click this magnifying glass, I don't know what Symantec is wanting from me right now. I'll make that go away. You'll see a list of all Workspace members, and if you look here, Simona, it says all Workspace members. And if I check that and click on Done, and maybe I'll make a comment, hey y'all, check out this great picture of elephants we took last week. I'll go ahead and I'll tag it too while I'm at it. This is a photograph. When I click on this Upload New File button down here in the bottom right-hand corner, that will upload the file. It will send an email notification out to everybody who has access to the workspace. And if I go to open it, it brings in my description and my tag and my comment. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking. And that's how you can alert everybody in a workspace when you upload a file. Again, you do that by, rather than just dragging and dropping, you click the Upload button, the little drop-down menu, and you click on Single File. Okay, so we've covered most of the basics. How do you create a user group so you can tag multiple people at a time? Great question. A company administrator has to create a user group. If at the end of this call you want to take a closer look at that, Morgan, I'm happy to. Or if you want to follow up with me offline, I can get you my email address and I can help answer that question for you offline. But why don't I go ahead and I'm going to tag your question there as a question, and I'll come back to it at the end of this call. So we've covered the basics: how to create folders and manage folders, how to upload files and collaborate on files. I'm now going to talk to you about some advanced features. So the first feature I want to talk to you about is version control. iMeet Central manages all versions and saves versions for you. Let's use this picture of the elephants as an example. I've uploaded this picture of the elephants, and let's say that I get a new version of it. I can click the Upload New Version button up here at the top, drag and drop the new version from my computer here into the drag and drop window. I can update the file's status and make a comment all at once. Here's version 2. The elephants are much, what's a good word to describe an elephant? Bigger in this photo. Great. And I'll click on OK. When you upload multiple versions of a file, you'll notice up here at the top of the file description area a version number. If I go back to the file list area, I will also see a version number indicated. If I open this file and I want to see an older version of the file, I click the More drop-down menu in the top right corner and I come down to where it says Version History. The version history list will show me a list of every version of a file. I can view, download, delete, and replace the current version with any past version. So maybe I've got a picture of elephants that's been around for a while and I wanted to go back and look at one prior version. I just click on View, and it will say this is version 1, current version is version 2, go back to the current version. Now the other way that you can upload multiple versions is from the actual file list area. If I have that file on my computer and the file name matches, I simply drag and drop it back into this folder, and it will upload a new version and update the version number. See, it says version 3. I'll do it again. Drag and drop, version 4. Now anybody who's subscribed to the file gets an email notification saying there's a new version. And of course, if I open up the file previewer, the version number is updated. Now, what if a user changes the name of the file on their computer? Some people like to do this. Creatives do this all the time. It drives us nuts. They say, it's version 5. They do this on their hard drive, and next thing you know, you've got multiple files floating around. If you are in the file list area and you drag and drop this file, it will create a new file list in the list. So now I have elephants and elephants version 5. But if I am in the file previewer and I click that Upload New Version button, check this out. Upload New Version. I'm going to grab the renamed one. I'm going to click on OK. Watch what iMeet Central does. It says, whoops, the file you selected is not named this. If you continue, your file will be renamed. And you click on OK. So for those of you who are working with creatives who like to change the file name on their computer, be mindful of this. Let your team know that if they like to name things special ways on their hard drive, they can. That's okay. You just want to train them to use this Upload New Version button so that you have one file in the file list with all versions saved against it. The next feature that I want to talk to you about is our download feature. It's pretty basic. If you click the download button here, it'll download the file to your computer so you can work on it locally. But what if you need to work on a file and you don't want other people to be working on it? Beside the download button is a drop-down menu, and you will see an option to say download and lock. Download and lock allows you to check a file out. I'm working on this picture, for example. When a file is downloaded and locked, only you have the ability to unlock that file. A Workspace administrator can also unlock a file. So if you download and lock it and then you check out for a day, Workspace admin can unlock it. While it is locked, however, users cannot make changes to it until you either upload a new version, it will automatically unlock it, or if you come in here and you click on the unlock button. Users will, however, be able to make comments. So if you've got a file checked out and someone's like, hey, I need to work on this, don't be surprised if someone comes in here and mentions you and says, hey, are you almost done with this? So users can make comments even if it's locked. They just can't make changes. So I'll go ahead and I'll unlock this. The proof action button is available if you have the review and approve tool. We're not going to talk about that today. I run a separate course on review and approve. The edit button is probably one of the coolest things that I get to show you today. I'm going to go find a Word document here, and I'm going to show you what that edit button does. Here is a Word document. It's called Creative Brief. It looks nothing like an actual Creative Brief. For those of you here who use Creative Briefs, you're going to laugh and say, I wish my Creative Brief was so short. There it is. That's my Creative Brief. I cannot make changes to a Word document in iMeet Central. For that matter, I can't make changes to any file in iMeet Central. iMeet Central simply previews the files that you upload. If you need to make a change to it, you're going to have to download it and work on it locally, meaning a docx, I would download and update using Word. That process requires having to download or download and lock, make my changes, save my changes, and then drag and drop the new version into iMeet Central. With some practice, it doesn't take that much time, but the edit button up here can streamline your process significantly. The edit button uses a tiny application called Cloud Assist. If I show you my task tray, you'll see this little guy down here in my task tray. This is the Cloud Assist app. And the first time you click on the Edit button in iMeet Central, you will be prompted to download the Cloud Assist application. And once it's downloaded and installed, if you click this Edit button, it will automatically open this file in a native program. You can make changes and click Save, and it saves your changes directly back into iMeet Central. So I'm going to click on Edit. And what I want you all to see is in the bottom right-hand corner of my monitor, down here, you're going to see a message that appears that says, Cloud Assist is downloading and opening this file, and then you're going to see Microsoft Word open. So I'm going to click on Edit. Ready? Here we go. So I click on Edit. Cloud Assist is downloading and opening, and Microsoft Word opens right here. I now begin making my changes. Now, once I've done this, if I go back into iMeet Central and I do a quick refresh, here's the nice thing about Cloud Assist. It automatically locks the file for you. So if you click on Edit, it downloads it, opens it, locks the file, and nobody can be making changes. Now, if I make changes here, it doesn't update live. So if I start typing words in here, it doesn't update on iMeet Central until I save. So I'm going to go ahead and save. Mind you, this document in iMeet Central is currently version 2. So I'm going to go ahead and save. I'm just going to click my save icon right there. And it says Cloud Assist is saving. And I wait. I have to wait for just a minute. Because Cloud Assist will say saving, and then it usually will say saved. There it is. So you got to wait until you see that message. It is saved. Now, at this point, I close Microsoft Word. Goodbye. I refresh my browser, and I see that I am now in version 3, and there are my changes. Words. The file will unlock automatically after 30 seconds. So you could technically hit Edit, start making your changes, close your browser, play around, save, and then close the native application, and it will unlock automatically after about 30 seconds. Or you can come in here and you can just click Unlock File, but let's see if it's done it automatically. I'm just going to refresh. Let's see if I waited long enough. An important thing to note here is that if you click the Edit button, it will not work unless you have a program on your computer to make those changes. So just be mindful of that. If you go to like edit a PDF, if you don't have Adobe Acrobat, the full version, it's not going to work. Similarly, if you're working on like a Photoshop image, if you don't have a Photoshop on your computer, it's not going to work. So you have to make sure that you have a program that will open that type of file. It doesn't look like it unlocked yet automatically. Let me go back to my file list. You'll see there's a little lock icon, so that tells me that it's locked. I'll give it one more refresh. It looks like it's still locked, so I'll just manually unlock it. So that's the Edit feature. And again, the first time you click the Edit button, it's going to say, you need to download and install Cloud Assist. Don't panic. Just follow the prompts. Click Yes. Once installed, you just need to make sure that it's running in your task tray down here. And you also need to make sure that your browser installed the proper extension. There's a browser extension that gets installed. But the installer should do all that stuff for you. A couple more things here. Up at the top, we have our Share button. And again, this is where we can manage subscribers. It is also where we can copy a permalink. Permalinks are used to, if you wanted to like, if you were chatting with someone, like let's say you use Slack, and you're slacking with someone and they say, hey, where's that creative brief? You can send them a permalink, this right here, copy permalink. And a permalink is great because if you send someone a permalink to a file, even if that file gets moved into a different folder, that link will always go to that file. Finally, from the More dropdown, you have the option to add a file to favorites, change its status, and edit related tasks and milestones, which we're not going to talk about today. That's related to our project stuff. But you'll notice that this particular file is actually related to a couple tasks and milestones in the project management area, so that's kind of cool. You have access to an audit log, which lets you see an entire history of a file, especially useful if you're wondering who made changes to something. You can come back into the audit log and you can see like, oh look, this person moved this file, viewed it, downloaded it via Cloud Assist, uploaded new versions, and so on. So the audit log under the More menu is very, very great. You also have the ability to add comments via email. So if you ever wanted to generate a comment via email, you can. I'm going to be honest with you all, I never see this feature used. Typically when people comment on something via email, it's because they're responding to an email notification they got. Like if I make a comment here to David, so at David, and I'm like, here's the brief. David's going to get an email notification. And if he just hits reply to that email, if he just hits reply to email and he composes a response and clicks send, his response is going to be posted as a comment on this file. But this feature here, More, add comments via email, it's there if you want it, but I don't see people use it a lot. You can archive files, copy files, move them into a different folder from here if you want. Click on Move and you can move this over into a different folder. The other thing that you can do from here is that you can rename a file and move it to the trash. Now, one interesting system behavior that I just want you all to be aware of is that when you go to rename something, please don't delete the extension. Leave the extension there. The extension is what our servers use to preview your file. So if you remove an extension, it sometimes will make the file previewer stop. So if I remove the extension and I click on OK, and I give it a refresh, let's see. Sometimes my server's smart enough. Yeah, it's smart enough now, but just be mindful of that. If you ever remove the file extension, sometimes the previewer stops working. And the reason is that our server doesn't know what file type it is, so it uses that extension. Okay, so that's everything in the file previewer. So let's recap. What have we talked about? We talked about managing folders. We talked about uploading files. We talked about collaborating on those files, making comments and notifying people. We talked about tagging file statuses and descriptions. We talked about sharing folders between workspaces. The last thing that I want to demonstrate to you before I let you go, and Morgan, I haven't forgotten about your question, is online content that you can create in iMeet Central. So if you're not uploading a file, you can create content in the system. From this new drop-down menu, you can create new discussions or documents. A new discussion is a starting point for a conversation with your team. Think of a discussion like a message board topic if you use message boards. So for example, I might create a new discussion about this particular workspace or this project that says the Macy's website redesign priorities. And I'll say, hey team, here are our priorities for this project. Priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3. And I'll make those bullet points. Get rid of that one. And then I'll come down here and I'll say, let me know if you've got questions. And then here's a cool thing you can do in these online discussions, is I can say, here's a link to the brief. And you see this little attachment tool right here? If you click on this, you can upload files from your computer. Or if you've already uploaded stuff, you can just link to it. So I'll click on link from other location. It shows me my folder tree, and I can say, I want to link to create a brief. When you create discussions, you can add polls, which is fun. You can tag them, of course, and then you can decide who you want to discuss with. In this case, I want to notify everybody in the workspace of my discussion. I can send myself a copy of it. I can password protect discussions, and I can also give it a status. When you click on Start This Discussion, like I said, it feels and operates a lot like a message board forum. Team members can then go into this discussion, and they can respond to it. They can make comments just like they comment on a file. Even if a user is not subscribed to a discussion, they can still participate in it. So online discussions are essentially a really great way to replace emails. So rather than send an email to your team, create an online discussion. And then you have a history of all those discussions and comments here in the workspace. The last thing that you can create, and then we'll wrap it up, online documents, very similar to a Google Doc. So if you wanted to create some kind of standard operating procedure document or a guide or a how-to, and you didn't want to create it in Word and upload it, you can create it as an online document. I can look for these types of files by going up to Files by Folder and going to Files by Type. And I can find all online documents, all discussions, and so on. So, I am going to answer Morgan's question here in just a moment, but before I do, I want to go ahead and see if there are any questions right now about files and discussions specifically. We've covered a lot in the last 45 minutes. Thank you so much for hanging in there with me. Otherwise, if there are no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording. I want to thank you all for joining me today. I do appreciate your time. I wish you a very happy Wednesday. Thank you so much for dialing in today, and I will see you at the next iMeet Central University course.